Progress.
Okay, we'll begin our meeting. Good evening, everybody. Today is Wednesday, May 5th, 2021. It's now 7:01 p.m. Welcome to the annual reorganization meeting for the Adams Board of Selectmen. And what that means is tonight we're going to end up electing a chair and vice chair for the next calendar year. And what that means right now is, as your town administrator, I get to have the first three items here on the agenda. So you'll have to deal with me through our procedure and protocols, and then the first three items, and then the new chair will take over at that point. So with that being said, as we all know, we are in the middle still of a health pandemic. Thankfully, there is a light at the end of that tunnel. However, pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 18, and the governor's orders imposing limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, as well as the fact that the town of Adams right now is still considered a moderate classified yellow for the presence of COVID-19. This meeting of the town of Adams Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of members of the public has been permitted, but every effort has been made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in this order. Fully attending tonight remotely are members of the Board of Selectmen, Member Richard Blanchard, Member John Duvall, Member Kristin Hoyt, Member Joseph Novak, and new member Howard Rosenberg. Howard, on behalf of all of us, welcome to the Adams Board of Selectmen and Adams Town Government. Good to have you.
Thank you.
There is no one in the meeting room. This is a fully remote meeting this evening, as I said. We have posted today's agenda in accordance with open meeting law, which included the call-in information for the meeting. Despite our best efforts, if we are not able to provide for real-time access for the public to participate in today's meeting, a recording can be made available by request, as this meeting is being recorded using the Zoom platform. As we are participating remotely, please note that all votes taken during this meeting will be by a roll call vote. I will state the member's name and ask for their vote for each vote necessary today. Roll call votes, as a note of protocol, are required even if one member is attending remotely. And as I said early, I'll be calling the meeting to order. I've read the governor's statement. Our next item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. So if everyone could just join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, I'll start loud and everyone can just follow right back in. Please stand if you do wish. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. With that, we'll move into item number 3, the reorganization of the board. With that being said, my purpose tonight is just to open the floor to hear any motions for the position of chairman of the Adams Board of Selectmen. With that, I'll open the floor. Any motions for the position of chairman, Adams Board of Selectmen?
Mr. Town Administrator, I just wanted to say thank you to my colleagues for allowing me to serve as their chair for the last 2 years. It is something that I have enjoyed, and I appreciated their support during those 2 years. I am not looking to continue to serve as chair. It is a role that does take an awful lot of time. It is something that I'm just not able to give at this time. So I will be putting forward the nomination of John Duvall as our chair, as I believe that he is somebody who can give the time to this position as it is needed.
Very well. At this time, I have a motion for John Duvall to be named as chair of the Adams Select Board. We're now looking for a second.
I'll second.
I have a second from Mr. Blanchard. Any discussion, please? Hearing none. I have a motion from Ms. Hoyt for Mr. Duvall for chair. I have a second for Mr. Blanchard. Roll call vote as follows. Member Blanchard?
Yes.
Mr. Duvall?
Yes.
Member Hoyt?
Yes.
Mr. Novak?
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Motion carries. Mr. Duvall is now the chair. I'll open the floor for I'll carry you, John, one more. I have now opened the floor for any motions for vice chair, please.
If it would be helpful to the board for transitional purposes, I would offer myself as vice chair if anybody should want that to be the case. But if somebody else would like to step up and be vice chair, I'm also happy to support that.
I'll nominate Member Hoyt for vice chair.
I have a motion by Member Blanchard for Member Hoyt to be nominated for named vice chair. I'm looking for a second, please.
I second it.
Mr. Rosenberg on the second. I have a motion on the floor for Ms. Hoyt to be named vice chair, seconded by Mr. Rosenberg. Roll call vote. Mr. Blanchard.
Yes.
Mr. Duvall.
Yes.
Member Hoyt.
Yes.
Mr. Novak.
Yes.
Mr. Rosenberg.
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations to our new chair and vice chair. With that, Chairman Duvall, I'm going to pass the proverbial hammer over to you, sir.
Thank you, Jay, and thank you, Kristin, for the last 2 years of your time as chairperson. It does take a lot of time, and each chairman, each member is different, but you have put a tremendous amount of time into this community. So thank you very much. And thank you, Jay, for starting us off. The approval of minutes for this evening. Next on the agenda, there are several. Some of these are from our workshops and some are from the regular scheduled meetings. So I know we've tabled over the last few weeks the budget workshops. So Kristin, you might be able to help me out here. We have 4 of these meetings are workshops. Are they all the budget workshops?
So according to my notes, and I did confirm with Deb Dunlap, the April 13th, 15th, and 20th minutes were all tabled, and that was a motion by Member Blanchard. So those should probably come off the table, but everything else is, and then we can take on all the other minutes.
Okay, great, thank you. So Rick, we have a motion to take off the from tabled the April 13th, 15th, and 20th budget workshop minutes.
Yeah, so moved.
And I believe I seconded that motion during the budget workshop, so I'll second that. Any discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Rick?
Yes.
Kristin?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Howard?
Abstain.
And I'll say yes. So 4 in favor, 1 abstained. Okay, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sets of minutes. And Kristin, everyone can vote on these. I'm not sure. Is Deb online too?
No, April 21st, John cannot.
Correct.
So I will make a motion.
There you go.
The board waive a reading of the minutes for April 7th, April 13th, April 15th, April 20th, April 26th, and April 27th of 2021, and approve them as provided.
Motion by Rick. Do we have a second?
I will second.
Second by Kristin. Any discussion on those sets of minutes?
Just one comment. I do want to thank Deb Dunlap. This is a tremendous amount of work to pull together all of these minutes, especially with all of the workshops and meetings that we have had in the month of April, and to do so in a timely fashion. I just wanted to make sure that that point is made and that she is thanked for this quick turnaround.
Well said. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Rick?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Kristin?
Yes.
Howard?
Abstain.
And yes. So we have 4 in favor, 1 abstention.
I will make a motion that we waive a reading of the minutes and approve them as provided for April 21st, 2021.
Okay, we have a motion by Rick. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Kristin. Any discussion? Hearing none. This is a roll call vote. Rick?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Kristin?
Yes.
I'm going to abstain. And Howard?
Abstain.
Okay, 3 in favor, 2 abstentions. Okay, that's it for approval of minutes. Next is public comment. Is anyone who has called in have anything they would like to discuss with the board for any item that is not on tonight's agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. We are now on to new business. The first item is approval of common vic license application. This is for the Rainbow Shack, 85 Summer Street in Adams. So Jay, do you have this one?
Yes, I can quickly go over this. So a common vic license, so that everybody understands, is generally, and I see that Mark is on the call and Dr. Rhodes on the call too. So if I misspeak, I'm sure I'll be corrected. Generally speaking, a common vic license is issued to an establishment that has food service with seating installed. Rainbow Shack apparently had never had a common vic before, from what we understand. However, although they don't intend to offer indoor seating at this time, they are missing that license. So this is a routine application for the board's desire to issue such license to Rainbow Shack, which I think all of us at this point would love to be able to have a normal summer with some ice cream.
Definitely. Any discussion from the board? Any discussion from anyone representing the Rainbow Shack? It seems to be pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I don't think we have anybody. When Deb and I checked this afternoon, I don't think we have anybody representing them here tonight.
Okay. Okay, so hearing no discussion from the board, I need a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the common vic license application for Rainbow Shack operating at 85 Summer Street in Adams.
Motion by Christine. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Rick. Any further discussion?
I would just like to make a comment. I'm very happy to see that the Rainbow Shack is open. It certainly is one of the better businesses in town during the summer months, and it's family oriented, and I'm very happy that they're opened again. They serve the community well.
Thank you, Joe. Anyone else? Okay, this is a roll call vote. Rick?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
And yes for me. Motion is approved and passes. Next on the agenda, still under new business, item B is approval of Sunday entertainment license. Pastor Dave Anderson of the First Baptist Church, North Adams. And the event is to be held at 161B Spring Road, which is the Burnett Farm, on May 30th of this year. Jay, you got this one too, I assume, right?
Yep, sure. I can tee this one up for everybody. So this is great to see that we're back to some events now. Just for clarity, this event is not on public property. This event is proposed to be on private property. Nonetheless, in order to have this type of event, there's a couple of different town-related permits that need to be taken care of. Pastor Dave is taking care of those with town staff. But the one that requires the board to look at is the issuance of a Sunday entertainment license, specifically for outdoor music. I know that everyone's pretty much ready at this point also, in addition to ice cream, to have some live music. So thankfully, Pastor Dave is with us tonight. Dave can certainly walk us through what the proposal is, what the hours are, etc. I can also tell you that he's been in touch with Board of Health, Code Enforcement Officer Mark Blaisdell, because, of course, everything that we do right now has that additional layer of regulation on top of it for health reasons. So the board is just being asked tonight to take a look at a routine issuance of a routine Sunday entertainment license. And with Dave, feel free to take the floor. The board will ask any questions that they may have.
Thank you so much for giving us a few minutes tonight. Our hope is, as a church, to do an outdoor music festival on Sunday, the 30th of May, starting at 1 o'clock in the afternoon and going until 6:30, so it'll be done before dark. We have 5 musical performers that are going to be a part of this event, plus 1 speaker. We're going to be setting a stage up on the property and have a huge meadow for people to sit on and spread out on and that sort of thing. We are going to have a food truck on site to facilitate meals and that sort of thing during the event. In the line for the food truck per COVID stuff, we're going to have cones every 6 feet to kind of deal with spacing. We're going to have 4 porta potties on site. Each of those are going to be 6 feet apart. And again, we're going to have cones in place to deal with the COVID restrictions. As a church, over the last year and a half or so, we have been following all the guidelines pretty closely as a church, and that will be the case for this event. We are going to have a volunteer group of 8 people that are going to be doing parking and security kind of things. We're going to have a group of 8 volunteers that are going to be doing general hospitality, meeting needs, and taking care of people throughout the event as well. We are going to be mapping out kind of our plan for parking up here. The event is going to be up at the top, the end of Spring Road. And the plan is a little bit later this month to hand deliver a letter to all the residents on Spring Road that there's going to be a little more traffic than normal on that day, early afternoon, and then the evening once the event is done. We are going to be charging $25 per carload. We're not doing tickets per person, it's just per carload. So if there's 2 or 6 or whatever, we'll have folks coming in. Tickets will be pre-sold online, and we are hoping for a crowd of somewhere around 2 to 250. And as of right now, my understanding is the outdoor cap on gatherings is 250, so we're going to do our best to adhere to that. I've passed in our paperwork. I wasn't quite sure how to do the licensing fee for that, so that's something I can drop off in the next day or so. And then we reached out to our insurance company the last couple of days, and I had emailed to me just later this afternoon the deck page for our church's insurance policy. So I will drop that off at Town Hall as well. For the church, our policy covers not just only events that we do at the church building, but whether we take trips or mission trips or do special events off-site like this, our policy covers those kinds of things as well.
Okay, thank you, Pastor Dave. Questions from the board? I'll go around the room. Rick?
Nothing at the time.
Okay. Joe?
No, I have no questions.
Christine?
No questions. Just thank you to Pastor Dave for attending this evening to walk us through your plans.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And Howard?
No questions.
So, Jay, the only question the question I have is that we have not received the insurance form yet. I think the license fee, I believe. So is that, so if the board approves this evening, it's going to be conditional on the submittal of those 2 items? Is there anything else?
No, we have Dave plugged in with some of the other folks from town staff, including Chief of Police, just to be able to mitigate anything that may for traffic related. So Dave's on top of that. And yes, you're correct, John. I would just recommend a conditional approval at this time.
Okay. So we're looking for a motion for a conditional approval.
I'll make a motion that the board approve the Sunday entertainment license for the First Baptist Church, North Adams, conditionally upon receiving the insurance, proof of insurance, and payment for the license.
I second it.
And we have a second from Howard. Now, Jay, that's good?
Yes, sir.
Okay, that includes it. All right. Is there any further discussion from the board?
This is Joe. I'd just like to make a comment to the pastor. While you're there, please have a moment of silence for Doug and Jane. They're two angels in heaven.
Okay.
Joe, thank you. Do you know who this is?
Probably Kim or Carrie.
Yes, it's Kim. I miss you, Joe. Thank you for that.
Okay.
Take care of yourself.
Very good. Any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Rick?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
And yes, for me, it's unanimous vote. It's approved. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will have the fees and the insurance information there tomorrow.
Thanks, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. Okay, next on the agenda is review of 2021 town election and open positions. Town Clerk Haley Mesmore. Haley.
Good evening. First, I want to say thank you to everybody who helped make it such a successful election this year. From our DPW crew to all of our poll workers to the police department, town hall staff that helped and pitched in to do a few things, and our custodians and anybody else that I'm forgetting. And congratulations to everybody who won. So let's get to the nitty gritty, where we do have a few vacancies that still exist after we've had the election. The Board of Health still has one vacancy that was not filled, and we have 2 seats for Park Commission for 3 years, and then we have 1 seat for a 2-year position on the Parks Commission. So moving forward with that, and town council can correct me if I'm wrong, but the appointment to fill a vacancy in a town office is where the commission or the board would notify the Board of Selectmen, but of course we're doing that tonight anyways, and they're definitely aware of it, and so are you, that there's vacancies that need to be filled. With that being said, you need to, if the selectmen want to fill these, then we need to give notice out, and then you have to come together with a joint commission or the board, and then do an appointment. So.
Okay, so that's precedence. We've done this in the past, I believe.
Correct.
A question for, well, let's see, the Board of Health needs 1 member, so they can still meet, right? They have 2 members and they're down 1, so they still can hold a meeting. The Parks Commission, which is made up of a total of 5 members, they are down 3 members, so at this time, they're unable to hold a meeting because they do not have a quorum of members. So the question I have for Attorney St. John is, I think this is what you put forward, and what Haley mentioned is that the Board of Selectmen will put out a recruitment notice for each board after tonight's announcement, looking for anyone who is willing to serve on one of these 2 boards. Until the Parks Commission has a quorum, if there's anything that needs to be taken care of from that board, how is that done? Is it done by the Board of Selectmen, since the Parks Commission is a recommending body?
So in the absence of the Park Commission, there's a statute that provides that the Board of Selectmen make those decisions that the Park Commissions can't make by reason of a lack of a quorum.
Okay. We're very fortunate to have Coach Jim Fassel, who's been on the Parks Commission for many years. So if he has any inputs he'd like to provide, that would be welcome.
I think it's important for us to function, and that we discuss the usage of the fields and the quality control of Russell Field and Renfrew. And we do need members to fulfill that. It became a very difficult process to get 50 signatures to qualify for running for office this time. So there is a thought where you could make the park commission's positions appointed, and maybe then it would satisfy. I know at least two members that would love to be part of it, but they couldn't get the signatures. One used the old-fashioned method of going up to the dump on Saturday, but nobody wanted to talk to him. He says, "Get away! We're in the middle of a pandemic." So it may behoove the board to make this a appointed position versus an elected one. That's it.
All right, thank you, Coach. So that's what we're going to do this year. We're going to look to appoint enough members so you have a quorum. Jay, so if anything comes up that needs action by the Parks and Rec, we can hold a workshop, or we can have it at a regular scheduled meeting to take action with consultation from Jim or the other board member. We can take care of it that way until a quorum has been identified, right?
Yeah, we can keep everything working. As of right now, the only item that was left when I talked to Foreman Scrocky today was he was still working on water for Renfrew. You know, Russell still is on turf hold in order to allow that. Everything else should be operating normally. I don't believe we've had any additional facility use requests, but we can certainly incorporate any of those items into any agenda moving forward and keep the business going and keep the facilities being used.
Okay.
Chairman Duvall, I also just want to make mention that Jake Schutz is also on this call, and he is the other Parks Commissioner. So I don't know if he had anything.
No, I agree with Coach, but I don't have anything else to add. I know Paul Nowicki was interested in a write-in campaign because he wasn't able to get enough signatures. So there are people out there willing to participate if once you put the call out for potential appointees.
Okay, thank you, Jake. So in our packets for the board, we do have recruitment notices. Either Haley or possibly Kristin, if you don't mind, if you to read each of these. Volunteers?
Can do it.
Go ahead, Haley. Yep.
Okay. I'll read a potential recruitment notice for Parks Commission members. And this one was used used last year when we were filling some positions for the Parks Commission. So the Town of Adams is seeking applications from candidates interested in serving on the Parks Commission, and this would be until May of 2022. The commission serves in an advisory capacity to the Board of Selectmen with the focus on facility and field usage requests for parks, playgrounds, and recreational activities within the town. The commission meets regularly on the second Monday of the month, and candidates that are interested should provide a letter of interest, including any training, credentials, or background to the office of the Board of Selectmen at 8 Park Street, or by email. They can email Deb Dunlap, and you'll have to set a time when you want to do that. It looks like, maybe if you put it out for 2 weeks or something, that might work. So I'm sure Deb can get this updated, and we can get it on the town website, and I'm sure it'll get posted on Facebook too. So again, anybody that's interested in serving on the Parks Commission, or they can even call Town Hall and speak to Deb's office in the Board of Selectmen, or if they happen to call my office, I can forward it off a recruitment notice once it's posted. For the Board of Health member, same thing. The town of Animals will accept applications from a candidate that's interested in serving on the Board of Health, and this would again be until May of 2022. Responsibilities are mandated under Mass General Law, state and local regulations, and community direction. Board of Health members are responsible for taking measures to prevent and control disease, health and environmental protection, and promoting healthy community. The board typically meets, I think, the first Wednesday of every month, just so that people know that. So it's typically a 1 month meeting, sometimes 2. Mr. Rose can correct me if I'm wrong. And certainly if anybody's interested, again, they could contact the Board of Selectmen office, the Board of Health office, or Deb Dunlap in the Selectmen's office. And I would assume that that would probably be out for like a 2-week period too. So anybody serving. And then obviously, you know, what Mr. Fassel was just saying about, you know, maybe making the Parks Commission an appointed board or a commission, if that's what you want to call it, that would be something that I believe, and town council can correct me if I'm wrong, that we would, you know, just change it by charter or, you know, going to town meeting to do something like that.
So that is, I'll jump in there. Sorry, Ed, but this I'll spare you that. This is one of those provisions, along with how we elect assessor, treasurer, collector, and town clerk. This is all required by special act, which makes up the town charter in whole. And in order to modify that, it cannot be modified alone by town meeting. It must be modified with authorization by town meeting to submit home rule petition to the state legislature to modify our enabling special act. So we've had a lot of conversation at the board level and at the staff level about modifying some of these positions. So I think Coach is correct that it would probably be easier for folks who have an interest in serving in these capacities, not have to mount an old-fashioned election for essentially a volunteer public service position. So it's definitely something that we need to look at down the road. It's achievable. It's just unfortunately one of those things that's a little bit more time-consuming in order to modify. But I would suggest that, at least in my conversations with the board, and I don't want to speak for the board, John, you can certainly jump in. That is something we'll be looking at down the road as our time allows us to do.
Thanks, Jay. Definitely we'll be looking into that. Does anyone on the Board of Selectmen have any input or any questions on the process we're going to go, or the 2 recruitment notices that Haley has provided? Okay, seems like everyone's good with this. I don't believe we need to have a vote, right?
No, John, I just had a question. I think, do we have to post it for a minimum of 2 weeks? I feel like that was the past practice, but I don't know if that's, so I guess I'm looking at Attorney St. John and Haley, if somebody might know the answer to that, if there's a minimum requirement for how long it has to be posted.
It actually looks like I'm reading the section right now, and it says, who with the remaining board members of such board shall, after 1 week's notice, fill such vacancy with a roll call. So, I mean, you could probably just go out for a week if you wanted to. I had just suggested, probably past practice has been 2 weeks, but it's strictly up to the board, whatever you deem is, you know, what you want to do.
I'd also add that 1 week that Haley talked about is a minimum, so you could go out 2 weeks if you chose.
I think I'd like to see 2 weeks. Anybody else? Everybody else good with that?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we'll do it for 2 weeks. That sounds fair. All right, does anyone, for this agenda item, does anyone else have any input on these open positions?
This is Joe. I have no input on the positions, but I would like to ask Haley a question of the review of the 2021 town elections. And my question to Haley is, what percentage of registered voters voted in Monday's election?
I'm going to say, I'm just looking for my paper, 14.7.
Yeah, that really bothers me. I don't know. I know that you and everyone else in this community try to get the word out to vote, but the apathy I've seen in the last I don't know how many years is kind of pathetic. It just I don't know. It kind of bothers me quite a bit. It's just like people with the civic responsibilities just don't do it. It's so much different during a presidential year, which of course should be the case. But, our town elections seem to be, way below par and below standards. And I think it may be throughout all of Berkshire County. I don't know the turnouts from other communities. I know, of course, Cheshire was quite low, but do you have any thought on why that is the case, Haley?
I really don't. I don't know. I mean, obviously, a presidential election draws out everybody. I have no idea why our voters, do not come out for our local election. As you and I know, and the rest of the board and everybody probably on the call, this is where it starts. So hopefully somebody's going to get we can get the message out, and hopefully we can get more voters out to vote in our town election. It's very, very important. I can't stress it enough.
Yeah, I agree with you, Haley. Democracy starts at home.
You're right.
Haley, I just have a quick question in regards to another subject. It's the federal census, and the federal government has started to provide census information at a very high level. Do we have any idea when the numbers will get down to the individual cities and towns of the states?
I haven't heard when we're going to be hearing about our number here in Adams. Yeah. I have gotten emails, and I participated in a couple of Zoom. And the problem hopefully we'll hear soon. But what I'm seeing and what we may have to do is draw our precinct lines differently than what we currently have. So I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen with that. Hopefully we don't have to redraw our precinct lines, but there is a possibility that that's going to have to happen.
And what triggers that?
The number that's within each of the precinct. There's a certain percentage that each one has to have. So, but then again, you still have, like ours are drawn with landmarks, and you have to be mindful of all of that. So we'll be doing more Zoom meetings that, have to relate to that. But yeah, and it's a very short timeline too. Once they tell us what our numbers are, we only have about a month to redraw our precinct. So it'll be pretty rigorous, but we probably won't hear until summer what our numbers really are.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and if I could, I would just like to say that it appears through the population drop within the western part of the state that both our state rep up here in Berkshire County, John Barrett, and perhaps Mark, their districts will maybe be made larger, and also our congressional district may also expand to cover other communities farther out in the eastern part of the state. So it's, once again, population and numbers make a big difference, and we just don't have them.
Okay, thank you, Haley. Next on the agenda is ratification of wastewater treatment plant operator number 1. Jay?
Thank you, Chairman Duvall. So as everybody may know, we do have 2 vacancies presently at the Adams Wastewater Treatment Plant. This evening, you'll be asked to ratify who could be our newest employee at the wastewater treatment plant, Ms. Kristin Doolittle. She's on the call this evening, and I've also asked Superintendent Bob Rumbold, our longtime plant superintendent, on the call tonight. You have the appointment letters, I believe, in your packet. You can certainly read those, John, if you'd like. and we can have Bob say a few words. And Kristin's been kind enough and been patient on the call to say hello so everybody can see what she looks like, because once she starts working at the plant, you probably won't see her again. So Kristin, welcome. And John, I'll turn it back over to you for your pleasure.
Thank you, Jay. Bob, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Excuse me?
Do you have anything you'd like to add to the conversation?
What I would like to say is I was very impressed with Mrs. Doolittle's interview. She brings a lot to the table. She has a lot of enthusiasm. I did reach out to her references. One of the four returned my phone call, and the review that he gave me more confidence from when we had her down at the plant. What I did is I had each department head take her around and let her experience what was going on at the plant, and everyone came back and said, out of the 5 people we have interviewed at the plant, she is probably the best fit for us.
And that is great to hear. I'll
Yes.
read the letter from Jay to the Board of Selectmen. Then the board will take action. Dear Select Board, this letter is to advise the Board of Selectmen that subject to the board's ratification as provided in Section 10 of the Town Charter, Kristin Doolittle has been appointed to the position of Wastewater Treatment Plant Operator 1. Ms. Doolittle has expressed sincere interest, aptitude, and willingness to develop her skills in wastewater treatment, seek her operator's license, and is eager to embark on a new career with the Town of Adams. Subject to hiring requirements, Ms. Doolittle will begin her duties on May 10, 2021 at the Wastewater Operator 1, Step 1 rate of $18.67 per hour. What is the board's pleasure?
I'll make a motion that the board ratify the appointment of Kristin Doolittle to the position of wastewater operator 1, Step 1 rate of $18.67 per hour, effective May 10th, 2021.
We have a motion by Rick. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Christine. Any discussion?
I have a question, and I asked this question of all people that are ratified for jobs. Is Kristin a resident of Adams? Yes. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. You're more than welcome, Joe.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, this is a roll call vote. Rick?
Yes.
Joe?
Yes.
Christine?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
And yes, it's unanimous decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Select Board.
Kristin, you want to say hi? You want to say anything? You've been patient.
I'm just happy to start, guys, and I can't wait. I'm glad I got this opportunity.
Great. Welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Kristin, Bob, thank you for your time. You're both feel free to drop off. No need to stay on. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. I'll talk to you later, Jay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda is textile bin and transfer station. Northern Berkshire Solid Waste District. We do have Linda Cernick here. Jay, do you have anything to say before Linda gives us an overview?
I'm just going to toss over real quick. Linda is certainly the subject matter expert. You know, this is an example as to, you know, we're often asked, maybe not often, but periodically asked, you know, why is Adams a member of the Northern Berkshire Solid Waste Management District? You know, what do we get for that? People see it in the budget. They wonder. This is one of the reasons why we are. It's programming. It is, you know, these are things that we do not do at town staff. We don't have the staff to do these things. Linda brings all of this to the table. So I will turn it over to her to explain what this opportunity is. The highlights are essentially no cost. We're ahead of the curve in terms of what will likely be another probably waste ban stream restriction down the road. But we're pleased tonight to present Linda and explain what exactly this program is and opportunity is.
Thank you very much, Jay. And I'm glad to be here. I wanted to point out the waistband compliance, as Christine put up on for you to all review. Mass DEP in November of 2020 held public hearings, and they're looking to implement textiles in mattresses in the waistband compliance, which means that textiles could not be thrown into the waistband, into your trash. So bringing on the textile bin with apparel impact now before the regulation starts, we're ahead of the game and providing resources for the residents to bring textiles to the transfer station. I think it's like a one-stop shop with all of the programs that we have at the transfer station for recycling. Did you want to put the apparel impact flyer up, Christine?
Is this the one?
Questions on the waistband compliance?
No. And then Linda, is this the flyer you wanted up?
Yes, but then the apparel, the acceptable items, did I send that to you?
Yes, it should be on the screen, I hope.
It's not on there. That's okay. So that's all right.
That's tough pictures.
Okay. So we've partnered with Apparel Impacts out of New Hampshire. They have 650 bins between Massachusetts and New York. They're an excellent company. We just started this program, and this gives an idea of all the items that are accepted into the bins. Anything can go in there except for items that are wet or moldy, and everything is repurposed. 30% of the items stay within the U.S. and the rest is sent overseas. We also have bins at the Pizza House and Adams, I think the Adams Express. Last year, Adams diverted over 7,000 pounds of clothing from the waste stream, which I think is excellent. So adding this to the transfer station is going to divert thousands more. And I think it's going to be, it's a one-stop shop. We have textile programming. We have tire recycling. We have a universal waste, which is fluorescent light bulbs, batteries, ballasts, and smoke detector recycling. We have compost recycling, which is leaves, grass, and household brush, paper and cardboard, plastic and glass. And we also have a shed for all deposit cans that go to the Boy Scouts. All the proceeds go to the Boy Scouts. So we have a nice array of recycling programs. Any questions? Mark,
Just one.
want to add? Yes, Rick.
Yep. Now, do they monitor that frequently?
Yes, they come around on a rolling basis. They will probably be, I don't know what the schedule is, but they come through Williamstown, New Ashford, Windsor, Adams, Cheshire. All of the transfer stations use apparel impact. So that will be cleaned out periodically. It will not get overly, it's not going to get full and clothing's going to come out of it. And if it does, we'll call them, but we come on a rolling basis and clean that out.
Right.
Did you speak to them? Or I think Robert was there when they delivered. Robert, are you on?
Linda, I did speak. I think it was every 2 weeks that they come through there, so there's no need for us to have an attendant, check the stock. It'll be every 2 weeks, so it's no effort really to do that.
Okay. My other question, now these are the picture that was sent in our packet. This would be the boxes.
Yes.
All right. It looks like it's to prevent people from climbing in them. Is it so?
I don't think you could climb in them. I think they're safe. I don't know. That's a good question.
Linda, you can't get in there. The door opening is such a way, it's almost like a V. So when it's open now, there's a piece of metal in the back so you can't climb in. Then you lift it up and it'll drop it in there. Person, unless they're very small or something, not going to get inside there.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
I'm excited to have this program. Thank you very much, Jay, Mark, and Robert and the whole board for approving this at the transfer station. I think it's going to be an asset, and it's going to prevent things from going into the waste stream.
Thank you, Linda. Jay, do you think this needs a motion, or it's already up there, right?
It's up there with no cost to the town under administrative. We had it up there. It's, if it was something that was going to be of cost or whatever, the board could have certainly taken a look at it, but we've got it up there. This is kind of a no-brainer. Can certainly vote to endorse, but no need for anything formal.
I did want to mention one event we're having Saturday. We have our Shred Fest, which is a paper shredding event. It's free for all member towns, 13 member towns residents. We're holding it in Williamstown from 9 to noon on Simons Road. Welcome anyone. And if people want to give donations, the money goes back into the district for additional recycling events. And we used our Recycling Dividends Grant Awards money for this.
Okay, sounds good. Anything else from the Board of Selectmen? Okay. Thank you. Next, we're moving on to field and park usage. Code Enforcement Officer Blaisdell. Jay, do you have anything to say before we get into discussion?
No, again, just teeing up for Mark, like with everybody else. COVID-19 has certainly engaged the Board of Health and Code Enforcement in certain areas where traditionally and historically they have not been involved. Even though we are winding down, hopefully, knock on wood, COVID-19, we did receive a lot of questions. I know board members were inquiring a lot as to what the regulations are for park usage. How is that regulated? What is the town doing? Is the town doing anything beyond what the state's doing? What is the state doing? Mark is a subject matter expert. It is the jurisdiction of the Board of Health, even though we may authorize use of the field for its intended function, say Little League Baseball. These state public health orders in a state of emergency also control how that team can play. So we felt there was a lot of questions, and it was best to have Mark present. So with that, I can turn it over to the board for any targeted questions that Mark can answer, or Mark can just start explaining exactly, particularly what happened at the last Parks Commission meeting where he presented at that time.
Mark, do you mind going over the status of the fields and the leagues and what happened at the last Parks meeting?
Sure. There were 7 organizations that requested to use the fields, 2 at Reed, 2 at Valley Street, and 2 at Renfrew. There was a 7th application that came in today. I don't know if Jay was familiar with that one, the Berkshire Adult Baseball League. Okay, so that's the last one that came in. So of the 6 that went before the Parks Commission, 5 had also requested use of the restroom, and so let me transition to the public health order, which is our local overwrite of the state standards. So with regard to the athletic fields that have restrooms and concessions, if they wanted to use those facilities, they would have to make special requests for that, because there's also some standards that they have to follow with regard to that. So in that public health order, I did make a couple of updates on number 2, indicated that other activities such as festivals, road races and whatnot, they needed to submit a COVID safety plan 10 days ahead of the event. Item number 6 was input from Superintendent Dean that Plunkett Field would remain closed for activities outside of school use. And then on number 13 is where I indicated that any organization requesting use of the restrooms or concessions submit the separate page 2 of the facilities use request, and all youth and adult sports organizers would submit also their game schedules 2 weeks in advance. And the last update was The previous order had a $300 fine. The state now allows for a $1,000 fine. So each of the sports organizations, the first 6, were given copies of this order, as well as the state standard from the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs that was put into effect March 22nd, amended April 16th, and then is going to be amended again on May 10th. That's it.
So, Mark, I noticed that the minor leaguers were already playing up on Valley. I think the soccer league may have already started. Have all the leagues provided a plan and to adhere to the rules? Have they been approved to start?
Yes, all of them have, and we did give them permission to begin their practices. And last weekend was the opening day for the Little League, so they had a 2-day event up there.
And another question is the softball leagues. I know we have 2 softball leagues, and one plays down at Russell. So how did they work out that situation?
No one has been authorized to use Russell Field.
Right. So both softball leagues are going to use Reed.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the board?
Yes, I have a question. I had a few calls from people, parents in particular, and one of them submitted a question to me that I'm going to ask you. I realize that each town and community sets the rules that best fits what's going on with COVID in the area. But this was the question: why the limitations on attendance at sports events, both at schools and parks, beyond that of which the state of Massachusetts imposed? Because a lot of people want to go see their kids play sports, and grandparents, because, they're just proud to see, their loved ones playing, and, and it also adds a little bit of excitement. So how does it stand for people wanting to go and watch a game in an open field? I'm not talking about in an enclosed area. As far as going to a field to watch a softball game, a soccer game, a t-ball game, and so on and so forth, football. So where does that stand as far as attendance from parents and people interested in watching the game?
So diminishing the congregation, we just, as Jay mentioned at the onset of the meeting, we just came out of the red for several weeks, and we are in the yellow. We would expect that as our numbers diminish and we get into the gray, that we would lift those restrictions, as well as make some additional modifications to the public health order.
Okay, so in other words, as it stands now, if people were going to go to a game to watch it, if they're family members, they could sit together. And if you're singular, if you're 6 feet away from somebody, is that considered enough spacing to go and watch a game?
So the restriction we put in place was 2 spectators per player. And at a sporting event, you do have people commingling, and incorporate in that concessions and restroom visits. You will, as the public, or as our Parks Commission experienced last season, was that you're going to have people within close contact. So our intention was to diminish the number of people who would be in attendance spectating, and then potentially commingling, whether it be intentional or non-intentional.
Okay, and my last question regarding that is, how can you realistically make sure that all of this, what you've just mentioned to me, can be adhered to?
Each organization has submitted an attestation that they will ensure that their players and their spectators would adhere to the state and local standards.
Okay, so in other words, it's almost like an honesty system, right?
The primary enforcement is by the event organizer.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
Okay, Rick, do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, no, I do not.
Christine?
Yeah, so question about the process. So Mark, you mentioned we and our a few times when mentioning the public health order. So when you mention we and our, are you talking about the Board of Health? Did this go through the Board of Health and be approved by the Board of Health before it was issued? And did you have, and my second part to that question is, did you have any input from the Parks Commission before putting out the public health order?
So I am an authorized agent of the Board of Health. The draft of the revision was sent to other town officials, including the Parks Commission. And at the last Parks Commission meeting, we did discuss the order, and it was in a draft form at that point. And then after the next day after that discussion, the modifications were made and finalized, and then signed and put on the town's website. And a copy of the order was then sent to those 6 organizations.
Okay, so there's been no input from the Board of Health officially on this order.
Correct. It's not required. Oh, but David does want to weigh in.
Yep.
Officer Blaisdell does keep us informed. So if we have an issue, we can definitely call him and modify. And so yes, he is our authorized agent, and as long as we agree with what he's doing, we appreciate his initiative in keeping the town safe. And yes, we do have oversight and have not seen necessary to use that at this point.
Yeah.
So I have a question, and nothing against Mark, but the process of the Board of Health approves these orders? Wouldn't the board have to meet to approve the order?
No, because these are orders that are public health related, and we do not need to approve them. Like I said, if necessary, we would modify, but as long as Officer Blaisdell is essentially following state mandate and guidelines, Department of Public Health guidelines, he's well within his authority.
So typically what I do is I contact the chairman with drafts, and then we have a discussion, make whatever adjustments we feel are necessary. And then I'm required by statute within 2 days of posting the order to notify the board members, and I have historically done that.
Okay, thanks. Howard, do you have any questions?
I do not.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions on this topic? Anyone in the audience? Anybody can bring up a question? Hearing none? Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, that is it for new business. Next on the agenda is department reports. Town Administrator, Jay.
Thank you, John. Moving quickly tonight, we'll do because we're kind of talking about impacts of COVID-19, I'll just quickly go over kind of what I think the future is going to be for our public buildings. Right now, our public buildings generally remain limited. I would use that term to describe them. Our library is operating with browsing by appointment, not unlike other facilities. So let everybody know, call the library, make an appointment, go right over and browse as usual. That too is a control in order to limit, excuse me, number of people in the building. Council on Aging is working by appointment with no large group programming at this time. And Town Hall, of course, remains open by appointment only with plenty of remote options. I do not necessarily think, again, knock on wood, that this will continue beyond, say, somewhere in the May to June range. I would think certainly by July 1, we'll probably be back to being open fully. I would expect some limitations in terms of whether or not we have a sign-in sheet, whether or not we try to recruit a volunteer greeter in order to do a temperature check, just remind people just to control that, again, to protect the workforce. My concern, as I mentioned earlier, and as illustrated also by Mark, and I would think that David would agree, as long as the community is classified in the red or in the yellow, that does indicate the presence of COVID-19 at a level that could promote community spread. Therefore, even though you may see other communities opening up, we are somewhat a little bit behind that as long as we have those DPH numbers. Is it cautionary? Is it conservative? Yes, it is. I just think at this point, we're almost there. We're functioning. We have, people call up all the time and make appointments at Town Hall. We're okay. So at this point, I would say that if we go into the green, or if we even luckier, if we drop into the gray, personally, and at some point, Mark and I will have this conversation. We'll have this conversation with Dr. Rhodes as well. At what point do we want to see green for how long? Or at what point do we want to see gray for how long? In my mind, and I'm conservative with this stuff simply because I'd like to protect the workforce, we'd like gray for 2 weeks. But at the same time, it is time to reopen and get back to normal operation. Most of the first floor in Town Hall is already in there, protected with the plexiglass, which was put in the 96 renovation of the building. Second floor offices, we've reached out. Anyone that wants a plexiglass, barrier to have there will have it. Of course, anyone can mask up, and we'll figure out as we go. I would suggest that as the public come to the building, they're going to probably be asked to mask up. I would also say that all of our boards, all of our commissions, the select board, et cetera, at that point can probably begin to meet in person. Some already have, as they know. And I would think that for a period of time, particularly with the room capacities, the rooms, as beautiful as they are in the building, aren't exactly made to spread out. We'll just have to watch the capacity limitations. And you may have seen, some of the newspaper articles about how the remote access to public meetings has really revolutionized local government. We have bought those two very large conference centers. We'll figure out how to integrate those, and we'll figure out how to use our space better in Town Hall so that they're always set up. A board can always meet and always have remote access. I would also put forth that I would anticipate a board can probably meet in person. And then eventually what we would probably do is allow people who have items before that board or before that commission to attend in person. That also limits the number of people in the room. And then eventually, as the numbers look good, the vaccination rate goes up. We hopefully achieve herd immunity, and then we can open it back up. However, no matter what we do, I think it's important for people to know we'll always have at least remote access. We just want to be smart about it and go from there. So I know that we're going to be looking at the rooms and that, but we're almost ready to go. Library's ready to go. I'm going to transcend also into Adams Memorial. We're doing some work in there now in order to continue on prep to move Council on Aging over. Why do we want to do that? It's not just the board's decision to use Adams Memorial for Council on Aging purposes. They can spread out more over there. So I know Erica has the tent plan. As soon as we can, we'll be having some events over there. she'll work with Board of Health, code enforcement on that as well. But if we can get some indoor programming over at Council on Aging where people can spread out, we'll still be able to operate in the function. So that's kind of where we want to go there. Shifting gears over to DPW work, just want to let everybody know Howland Avenue has not escaped anyone's attention. We're waiting to hear from Mass Highway on some guidelines for what's called a transportation bond bill that allows a town of Adams that has a roadway that is part of the state route numbered system, but is municipal maintained, to apply for funds for resurfacing. So that road needs more than just what's called an overlay. It needs some significant work. It's probably about $1 million. We've talked about this before, but I think it was just important. We talked about it this morning. I just think it was important to remind everybody we're still pursuing that. That has not fallen off of our radar. I'm of course reminded about it frequently, including when I drive over it. So I'm in the same boat as everybody else. We're gonna make some noise and try to get what we can. Lastly, we started discussing today our line painting program. So at some point that'll take place as well. And then as soon as we have we're continuing to monitor what comes out of the federal government, not just the American, I always screw this up, but I say it's the American Recovery Plan, ARP. So that's the legislation that's already passed. We've discussed previously the $2.3 million coming from that pot of money. We have no guidance on how to spend it or appropriate it yet. So when that day comes, we'll probably have a workshop and have a good, robust conversation and figure out, okay, where do we go with it now? And then, of course, we have still a pending infrastructure bill that's being debated at the congressional level, and we don't know what that's going to give us. So we're just patiently waiting to see what we get from the feds. But we are moving ahead with what limited funds we can for some of our spring and summer work. I think at this point, that's about all I have at this time.
Hey, thanks, Jay. I just have one thing, and I'll open it up to the board for questions. Is I like to work with you to set a goal, if possible, that the board begin meeting in person again at the next regular scheduled board meeting in 2 weeks. If possible, and like you had indicated, have Zoom access for those that are supporting the meeting. Kristin had us doing this prior to going to Zoom completely, so I like to begin to move back to have our meetings with everyone in attendance from the board as soon as we can, so we can talk about that and make sure it's safe and everything. And but I just want to give you a heads up. That's something I'd like to see if possible.
We're gonna take a look at the logistics inside the Selectmen's room, John. We learned prior to switching to Zoom, if you recall, we had some complaints from our constituents that the audio being broadcast from the Selectmen's room through the cable channel was not strong. But yet when NBC TV was able to pull their audio from the Zoom feed, it was much stronger. So we're going to work with Dave Fabiano and his team over there at NBC TV, figure out exactly what the best solution is, how to figure out how to get that video conference card in the room. It's set up nicely now, so we have to make some modifications, but we're going to work on that. So it's really plug and play. We go in, we have our meeting, we're able to go from there. Anything that we can do to get back to normal, I think we're all thirsty for. And then eventually I would say for the boards, that are meeting, really prior to that 6-foot rule, you realize how close everybody was sitting. At some point, it's just going to have to be personal preference, what somebody wants to do at that point. So I would agree with you. As nice as these meetings have been remotely, it's time to get back to it. But this has, I would suggest, making a kind of an overarching statement. This has certainly modified the public process, and we're going to adapt.
Yes, if I could, this is Joe. I concur wholeheartedly with John on this. If we're able to have a finance committee meeting and a joint meeting with the selectmen in person, I see no reason why if space is a concern, why we can't conduct our selectmen's meetings down at the Memorial Gym for the time being. And there's plenty of space for people wishing to come in. You could get the measurements of the area, how many people could be accommodated through the COVID protocol. And I think this by Zoom is cumbersome and I'm raring to get back to regular order.
Okay, thank you, Joe. All right, for the board, let's go through.
I just want to mention that there is a logistical challenge with what was just proposed. The complication with the Board of Selectmen meetings is the live feed to community television, which is something that we were not able to provide with Memorial School. It's why I believe the town administrator talked about speaking with the community television folks about the logistics for the Selectmen's room, because currently the setup does not allow for the five of us to meet in the room with speakers and the television and the media cart. It is why, in addition to the board, or in addition to the town being in the red and in the yellow for the last several months, that the decision was made to continue these remote meetings because we just couldn't provide that television access if we moved our meetings outside of that room and had internet access to help with that. So there were lots of logistical nightmares to complicate things even further. So I just wanted to state that. So
yeah, if I could just also comment, I know that it's important to have the meetings on public television, but I don't think it's mandatory that that has to be the case. I think we do that as a public service. And if we meet just a few weeks, whatever it takes before we can get back into the town hall, I just think that it would be much better for us to meet at the Memorial School until we can go into the town hall again. That's just my thoughts. As far as logistics, I'm sure that's true, but is it something that overshadows being able to meet rather than have it on television? I know it's popular. It's probably popular than more TV shows. I know a lot of people watch it, but once again, I want to get back to regular order because I don't enjoy doing my work via telephone, and I'm certainly not intact to want to be on Zoom. So once again, I just would like to state that for the record.
All right, thank you both for your inputs. Jay and I will look into it and we'll get back to you. In regards to Jay's other comments, any questions from the board? We'll go around the room. Rick?
Phone wasn't cooperating. I couldn't unmute. No, I have nothing.
Okay. Joe, anything else?
Yeah, I have a few questions for Jay. Where do we stand on the Valley Street project as far as the work that is being done there? Has that been complete? I haven't been able to get up that way.
Yeah, I haven't either, Joe. I know that they had some remaining work to do. They had some more pipe to install, and then I think they've got a lot of the patching work back to do on the road cuts. I was up there, I want to say probably a day or two before Officer Evans' funeral, maybe the day before. I went up there with DPW, and they were sodding some areas. So I'll get a more specific update for you next time around.
And I asked this some meetings ago. Do you know where the outflow is? And with the rain that we've had, it would be a good time to check to see if the work that's been accomplished is doing what it was supposed to.
When we were in the middle of the project, I would say probably last spring or summer, we had those downpours. We had a lot of issues. We had no complaints this time around or anything that reached my desk in terms of it. In terms of where the exact outfall is, no, we at least I have not been informed where it exactly is.
Okay, well, thank you. A few more questions and a comment. I noticed the other day that some fencing was being repaired along the rail trail and the train tracks just north of the Cook Street intersection.
Yes.
Who paid for that work?
Town of Adams' responsibility. Our insurance company. It was storm damage.
So there was no cost to the town?
Negative, no cost.
Okay, that's good. And my last concern is the town common. I happened to be driving by I believe it was either yesterday or the day before, and I noticed that Brandy Nelson was there along with Becky Ferguson looking at the town common. And I'd walked through there many times prior to that. And once again, something that I had my hand slapped with, that whole common is riddled with Japanese knotweed. Apparently it came in when the soil was delivered. There must have been some cuttings, because it doesn't take much for that to spread. And it's overrunning that common, and you can't just get rid of that by mowing. It propagates even stronger, and so that's something that needs to be rectified quickly. And I can only see it as an extra cost or a mistake made by whoever brought in the topsoil. Also, a lot of the plantings along the back are riddled with rust, meaning that a lot of them are dying back. Attention needs to be taken quickly to cut away that rust from them. They don't look very strong at all. And once again, a lot of people on our committee and people have asked me what's going on there, and I can't tell them anymore. We don't have the say anymore. It's the town of Adams. We're discontinued as a group, and I don't know what to tell people. It just seems like it's off the radar screen. You know, that statue sits there covered. There's been no talk of when we want to have the celebration, if we want to have one, when it's going to be, because you just can't say we're going to have it next week. In order to make it fitting for what has been accomplished there, we're going to need at least a month time to make arrangements to get people to come. And of course, we know you'll get back to COVID. I'm sure that's the situation, but it just seems like that project has dropped off the radar screen. And, you know, I know some members and people know who've been involved, and they've been asking, you know, when's this going to happen? And I can't tell them. I don't think anybody can tell them except for because it's under the town now. So I haven't heard anything. Is there been any talk of when this unveiling is going to take place?
The answer to that is yes. First of all, I'm going to pass along all of the foliage issues to Becky so that she can work with the contractor on it.
Well, she was there.
Okay.
Becky was there at the meeting. She was there. I happened to drive by and I saw him on the site, and I was going to bring it up to the meeting tonight, but I know Becky walked with Brandy, and Brandy, who is the landscaper for people listening, Brandy Nelson for the landscaping company that we hired to oversee the project. And she was very concerned about that Japanese knotweed because, as you know, I got censored by the Conservation Commission, and I was wrong with what I did. But let me tell you, folks, that this Japanese knotweed is something to try hard to contend with. I know the area that I did, and I won't prolong the conversation, is already growing Japanese knotweed again. So once again, it's killing our riparian zones. It's a monoculture. It blocks out the growth of anything else, and it's very troublesome to see it in the town common because it's no easy fix to eradicate it. And I think that's all I have for you, Jay, for tonight.
Okay, Joe, we'll do. Thank you.
Hey,
go ahead, John. I'm sorry.
I just want to follow up to Joe's question about the ceremony for the unveiling of the Susan B. Anthony statue. Do you have any updates on that? A lot of people have questions about that.
Yes, they do. And everybody also needs to understand, too, that we've been asked to do quite a bit of stuff at Town Hall with limited staff. You know, Officer Evans' funeral was actually very time-consuming, et cetera. So, you know, we're doing a lot of stuff reacting to things. My office and I could only handle so much. So I asked at the time who the chairman of the select board was, if they would be willing to plan an event for sometime in June, working with the community development office. At what point would the town common be presentable? in order to invite elected officials, et cetera, and do right by the statute, do right by town common. We think at this time we're shooting for late June. I asked Chairman Hoyt, again at the time, now member Hoyt, in order to arrange that. And I believe that she found another volunteer to help her with. And that has been going on in the background, but we need to solidify some dates. At this point, we're trying to recruit some state officials, and unfortunately their calendars are hard to nail down. Christine, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to that, but yes, we are working on it in the background. We want to do what's right for the committee, and we want to do what's right for Susan's statue as well.
Yeah, I can just mention that community development has been communicating with me about the when town common should be ready. I was told yesterday by community development about the issues that Joe raised this evening. So that was the first I had heard of that. And they assure me that the end of June is still probably a good time. Probably it might be the week of, it'll be the end of June. And that is the information that we are getting out to some state officials to see if their calendars would line up with the end of June to do an unveiling. And at that point, that's where the conversation is at. We're looking at some state official calendars.
I think the other thing too, Joe, that was on the radar to try to fix, which was going to be, I think Brian had to come back one more time. Brian's a sculptor, because I don't think that repair held. I remember Becky saying something that she needed to look one more time into that repair on that front facing step. So that was the other thing from a timeline standpoint. Becky was monitoring for us.
That has been taken care of.
Okay.
There's
good.
a brass over it, and it looks fine. What was done, it doesn't break up because it's a quote, and stair top number 1 and stair top 3, because there's 3 steps, are biographical in nature and date, so it doesn't hurt the sequence of looking at it. It would have been much different if the young Susan covered either the step 1 or step 3. It would have been kind of a lot of work to fix it, but it looks good because it matches the rest of the statue. So
Good.
That has been taken care of. Brian wasn't able to come up and do it personally, but he sent his crew up who does all of his setting to make that fix. So
Okay.
that has been taken care of.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, great. Christine, do you have any other questions for Jay?
Nope, I do not. Sorry.
It's okay. Howard.
I do not have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Moving on to town council report. Attorney St. John.
Thank you. Since my last report, I spoke with a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding the suit for judicial review of the use variance that was granted to a marijuana cultivator. I've also had conversations with the attorney for the cultivator and the attorney for the objector. I've spoken with COVID-related continuance of at the time the district court is unable to conduct trial proceedings on civil cases until it receives permission from the state trial court's office. I prepared for a hearing on a Board of Health code enforcement matter. I researched a question concerning what the Board of Selectmen may do if vacancies exist on other boards caused by a failure to elect, which is what you discussed earlier tonight. In accordance with Mass General Laws, Chapter 41, Section 11, the Selectmen are allowed to appoint persons to fill vacancies in collaboration with existing board members. I discussed the proposed purchase and sale agreement of the 26 Commercial Street property with the attorney for the seller, and I discussed the boundary line matter with staff and with the attorney for the property owner. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Attorney St. John from the board? Hearing none, moving on to the next item is subcommittee and liaison reports. Rick?
I have nothing.
Joe?
I have nothing.
Good.
Christine?
Be on TV.
I think I am. I was like, we can still hear you, Coach. So I just wanted to report out earlier today, I believe all of us received an invitation to attend a Zoom meet and greet with the Western Mass Director for the Office of the Governor, Jose Delgado. It was an invitation that Deb had sent around to all of us from Andy Hoagland and the Berkshire County Selectmen's Association. So I did attend that at 6 o'clock this evening. It was good to represent the town of Adams at that space. Jose did talk a little bit about all of the economic development updates from the governor and the lieutenant governor, what they have been announcing over the course of the last several weeks. And they talked about a couple of different upcoming programs. The one that is coming up with a deadline is the Shared Streets and Spaces program with a deadline of May 21st. I know, Jay, you had worked with some staff to start looking at some possible grant opportunities. So I know that that deadline's coming up quickly. And they also mentioned the LRRP, and I believe that there's a public meeting coming up with that group soon to talk about the survey results. So it was good that that was on the Office of the Governor's mind and that we had the opportunity to speak with him. There were only a few selectmen on the call, so we actually all got a lot of FaceTime, Zoom FaceTime with our new rep in the Western Mass office. So just wanted to report that out to the board.
Okay, thank you. And Howard, I assume you have nothing to add for the subcommittee liaison reports as of today?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
We'll have to fix that.
Yeah, real quick. Huh? And finally, announcements in good of the order. Rick?
Just real quick, I'd like to congratulate John and Howard on their election, as well as our other elected officials in town. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe?
Yes, I'd like to follow up on what Rick had just said. Congratulations to you for winning, both of you, John and Howard. And Howard, I saw your bio and I was very impressed with your credentials as far as educationally. Stanford and MIT, they're the best. So best of luck to you, and I'm looking forward to working with you in the future. And best of luck. And it's tough to put yourself out there. And although Don Summers came in third, I'd still like to congratulate him for his willingness to step forward and try to serve our community. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Joe. Christine?
One announcement, and it's regarding vaccines. So we are at a point where, a number of people have had vaccine appointments or have been able to get vaccine appointments, but we do also realize that there are individuals who might not have access to computers, might not have the ability to register online. So starting this week, there have been walk-in appointments at the 3 vaccination locations in the Berkshires. Today, there was a walk-in clinic in Great Barrington. Tomorrow, there are walk-in appointments at the North Adams Clinic from 12 to 5 p.m. There are 300 walk-in appointments available. You will still have to bring a photo ID in your health insurance information. There are also appointments available if you wanted to pre-register beforehand, but there is a clinic tomorrow. It is Pfizer doses. It is from 12 to 5 p.m. in North Adams. There's also a clinic in Pittsfield from 4 to 7 p.m. If you know anybody who still needs a vaccine, who's been unable to register, please encourage them to go and get vaccinated tomorrow. Because I don't know when we'll get this many doses again. to the county. And I don't know if there will be another walk-in kind of appointment process going forward as these clinics are starting to wind down. I know the governor announced earlier this week that the mass vaccination clinics, I believe he was closing 4 of them, and they will be pushing the vaccines to pharmacies, doctors, etc. And these clinics will start to close. So this is really the time, if you haven't been vaccinated, to get out there and go. So call a neighbor, call a friend, let them know. Thanks.
Okay, very good. And Howard, anything to add?
I don't, thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I wanted that I'm happy to be serving with you folks, and I look forward to working with you as we move forward. And, it's a lot to learn. I just got unloaded on with a lot of manuals, so it'll take me a bit to catch up. Thank you.
Sorry, Howard.
Okay, all we have left is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Rick, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Christine. Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Okay.
Roll call vote.
Joe's right. Roll call it.
Joe, thank you, sir. Okay, roll call votes. Rick,
Yes.
Joe,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
and yes, it is now official. Thank you very much. Good meeting. Thank you.